Stephen, we have coaching odds as well for Florida. Not nearly as many names, maybe because it's been open for a little while. But how about Eli Drinkwitz, minus 105 to be the next head coach of the Florida Gators? So that means he's a heavy favorite currently. Truthfully, what does this mean? I wouldn't put a ton of stock into this, but it is interesting nonetheless. James Franklin, we already talked about, he's 2-1, so he's got the second best odds to be the next Florida coach. And from what I understand, Stephen, the Gators are pissed that we're talking drinking James Franklin because all they want is Lane Kiffin, but he's next. Lane Kiffin, 3-1 odds to be the next Florida coach. Jed Fish, 9-1, the Washington head coach. Jeff Brom, 10-1, Louisville coach. Alex Golish, no way, G5. Can't go G5, right? 12-1 for Alex Golish. Kenny Dillingham, the Arizona State coach, 14-1. Georgia Tech coach Brent Key, 16-1. And then lastly, Rhett Lashley from SMU, 18-1. What's your thoughts on these candidates?
Mike, here's a big picture observation that is making for an interesting kind of moment in the coaching carousel. Jeff Brom, Kenny Dillingham, Clark Lee, and Brent Key are all alums of their school that they currently coach at. And there's some of the hottest names to move around this offseason. Like, I don't know another time in the college football carousel recently where you've got four guys who perhaps could be interested in other jobs that are being so successful at their current schools, in schools that haven't necessarily had this kind of high level success. That is kind of throwing kind of a curveball in all this. If I'm looking at those Florida odds, number one, I don't know what to make of it. It's interesting that Eli Drinkwitz is such a heavy favorite here. But if I'm looking at this from like a betting angle, and you're going to throw down, you got a couple bucks to throw, why not throw some on Jed Fish at 9-1? You know his ties to Florida. Let's just say Florida whiffs on Kiffin. They don't get Drinkwitz. So Jed Fish makes a ton of sense here. And I'll go back to Jeff Brom at 10-1. Mike, I think it's going to be hard to get him away from Louisville. But if you're Jeff Brom in Florida, in LSU, in Penn State, and all these jobs that could win a national championship start coming to you, and they're throwing $10-11 million out there, maybe it gets a little interesting. So just from a purely like odds play, Brom and Fish kind of stand out as some value to me at 9-1 and 10-1.
I mean, you're the sensible one, right? So I don't know how sensible this is. We appreciate you being here, big Gator fan, but Drake's pathetic choice. He's a terrible coach. Eli doesn't fit UF. I'm trying to figure out why in the hell, Stephen, that these Florida people are so out on Drink. The only thing I can figure is he's not Lane Kiffin, even though they essentially have the identical record the last 3 years. Can you make sense of why anyone? Now, I get if you just hate Drink and his personality, but other than that, is in any metric, is Drink a bad coach?
He's like, what, 27-7 over the last 3 years? He's won double-digit games at Missouri the last 2 years. He runs an exciting brand of offensive football. Yeah, you may not like his personality, but you know what? When he's your coach, you will like the fact that he control any other fan base in the SEC. I think Drinkwitz is a really good coach, Mike. And if you're, I think this is the other question. If you don't get Kiffin, it's going to be a letdown. So where do you go? If you can't get Kiffin, if you don't get Jeff Brom, if you don't want James Franklin, this is kind of the candidate pool that you'd be choosing from. It would be like an Alex Golish, a Drinkwitz, or somebody in that mold, like maybe a John Summerall if he doesn't go to LSU. I think there is a short supply of big time candidates this year, and there's probably more jobs opening. Like everybody is fighting for the same 5 or 6 candidates, and we don't even know if Florida State, we don't know if Auburn could open, we don't know if Texas could come open. There's a domino effect that's going to happen too. So I think to some extent, maybe the dislike of Drinkwitz is that he's such a good troll for Missouri. But like I said, Mike, he's got a track record of winning. And he knows how to recruit and adapt in this modern era of college football. I think he'd be a pretty good fit at Florida, wouldn't he?
And then so he's back with another one. Eli ain't shit versus Kiffin. Eli's 56-27. So look at this, Stephen. Well, maybe I'll just share my screen because it'll be easier. But while he was trashing him, what I did was I just looked up. This is a really good site that I use all the time, Sports Reference.
Oh, yeah.
So Lane Kiffin, 14 years as a head coach, right? Winning percentage, 68%, which that's good. I'm not saying it's bad, right? But again, 68. So Eli Drinkwitz ain't shit. Eli Drinkwitz winning 67.5. I mean, this is the same damn thing. And I would argue that being Missouri coach is a lot harder than Southern Cal coach, Tennessee coach, Florida Atlantic, where again, I'm not saying like Florida Atlantic is some awesome job, but that's not major football. I mean, that's you're competing against lesser than coaches and teams and shit like that. So, I mean, it's just this is asinine. And again, I'm not saying Kiffin's bad, but to say that he's like vastly superior to Drink you're just ignorant. It is the nicest way I can say it.
I think it's fair to say Kiffin is a top 10 coach nationally. I think Drinkowitz is probably top 20 to 25. I think also, I think about it doesn't necessarily like work one-to-one in thinking about coaches, but I always think about where the job is on the hierarchy of college football really matters, because it's a lot easier to win at a place like Georgia, Texas, Alabama, LSU when you've got more resources. It's always risky to say, hey, if I take this coach who's here and put him here with more resources, he's going to win exponentially more. But like, if you're thinking about a Drinkowitz hypothetical here, he's at Missouri. He would have an easier path to recruiting in theory at Florida. He's got a way better ability to navigate the portal than Billy Napier did. And he knows how to put an offense together that isn't like the 1995s like Napier did. So I think Kiffin would be like the grand slam, but I think just thinking about where Missouri is, and it's not the top job in the SEC. It's not a bad job. It's that Florida's just a really good top 10 job. I think you give a coach more resources, and I think he could win at a higher level. So I think it's a testament to how good of a coach Drinkowitz is that he's won the 27 games in 3 years and probably headed for another top 25 finish.
How about this one, Shane?
Yeah.
Florida Gators. Now, there's one coach. Heavy favorite. In fact, you got to bet a lot of money just to gain it. It's minus odds. Yeah. So it's like, instead of saying 2-1, it's 1-2. Who do you think is the betting favorite to be the next Florida coach?
I have no idea. Eli Drinkwitz.
You nailed it. Don't doubt yourself. Don't ever doubt yourself, Shane. Eli Drinkwitz, a minus to be the next Florida coach. Thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, we always talked about this being a place for him. You know what I'm saying? Man, I go back to the old lightsaber days, when he absolutely hated Florida. And Gator fans, they're going to eat a lot of crow. They better delete a lot of tweets, by the time he gets down there, because they were not a fan of this man. But you got to be a fan of the work that he's put in, right? Not just him, but the teams that he's created, the coaches that he's created, because some of these coaches that have gone on to get prominent jobs elsewhere, I feel like when we talk about guys like Nick Saban, what's the first thing they talk about? The Saban tree. And they bring up all the coaches that used to be on this staff. Well, quietly, Drink's doing the same thing. He's putting great coordinators out there. So, I feel like this would be a home run hire for Florida. And I know Mizzou fans would not want to lose him.
Yeah, Cousin Tony said he'd quit football. All right, second best odds to be the next Florida coach. James Franklin. 2-1.
Ugh.
Well, better odds than Kiffin. How about that? Kiffin's 3-1, so not far off.
Do you think that's? I'm sorry.
Jed Fish, the Washington coach, 9-1. So again, there's a big separation between Kiffin and Fish.
Yeah.
What were you going to ask about old Kiffin?
Do you think that did that move when the LSU job opened? Like, if LSU didn't open up, would you still have Lane in that third spot, or would you probably have him a little higher, you think? Because I feel like the less likely is you know what I'm saying?
No, I don't know what you're saying. But I guess, Ole Miss winning,
Yeah.
Missouri losing, one's likely to make the playoff, one isn't. I think that's a factor as well. But I don't think this is LSU related because I don't think Kiffin was ever going to Florida.
Right.
I really don't. But whether LSU is open or not, I don't think he's going to Florida.
All right. Can you give me a second, Mike? I will be right back. All right. I'll be right back.
How about this one from old Eric Giffen? Some drink hate, which guy gets enough love. Let's give him some hate here. Drake is 0-12 versus SEC teams that end the season with a winning record. He's 4-4 against SEC teams that finish with a 500 conference record. He has not won a big in-conference game. I don't know that I would agree with that last statement. I mean, that statistic you got's pretty damning, but you got to consider a lot of things. He was at Missouri. He kind of had to build it up. He's got it to a really good point now. And would he have, again, you're kind of cherry picking stats here when you say he's got a couple against 4-4 teams, but that's because he beat them, right? So you can't sit here and say, oh, all those teams he beat, none of them finished with a winning record. Well, that's because they lost to fucking Missouri. You know what I mean? So we got to give him credit for doing something, right? And his record in one-score games is pretty outstanding. I think he's, I just did the graphic. I think he's 4th or 5th right now in the SEC when it comes to one-score records in one-score games. So that's an indication that he's a really good coach. And I have seen some Florida fans bicker about the fact that the record for Missouri is drastically improved when he hired Kirby Moore as an offensive coordinator and took away the play calling duties from himself. And they're using that as some kind of like, well, this is all just Kirby Moore. Whereas I think a Mizzou fan right now would tell you if they could fire Kirby Moore, they would. Which I think that's crazy, by the way. But the point being is it's not damn Kirby Moore is like some genius and Drink is an idiot. That should not be seen as some slight on Eli Drinkwitz. That should be seen as the exact opposite of the guy you just ran his ass out of town, Billy Napier, who was so hard-headed that he didn't believe he needed a coordinator. So a coach identifying a weakness in his program, swallowing his pride, hiring, and not only hiring, but identifying and hiring. You can hire. Look at old Brian Kelly, another one. You can hire an offensive coordinator. Doesn't mean they're going to be worth a damn. They just had to jettison Joe Sloan out of there. So to say it's a slight against Eli Drinkwitz that he can identify a play caller, hire a play caller, and then the program takes off, I think that's kind of asinine, to be quite frank. But again, yeah, some of these statistics are damning. I get you that. But at the end of the day, how many of these, and I bet you don't have this stat because, again, people just cherry pick stats, of these 12 games that you're citing, that Drink has not beaten, how many of them have superior talent than Missouri? And I would bet you about 12 of them, 12 of the 12. We're talking Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee. I mean, this ain't shitty teams he's losing to here. So talent matters more than anything. And he'll have better talent if he takes the Florida job more often than not. So, man.